Good stuff in this. Abraham Lincoln and the Structure of Reason. David Ersch, Dan Van Haften, lawyer and mathematician. Good book. At the beginning, talking about Euclid and Lincoln and how Lincoln made himself a better lawyer, better thinker, helped change our world, helped become president. Quote, Judge Frank Easterbrook of the Seventh Circuit puts the point bluntly. Quote, the best way to become a good legal writer is to spend more time reading good prose. And legal prose ain't that. So read good prose. And then when you come back and start writing legal documents, see if you can write your document like a good article in the Atlantic, addressing a generalist audience. Now that's how you do it. Get your nose out of the law books and go read some more. Unquote, unquote. Quote, of all Lincoln's reading, the most important was of Euclid. In 1918, Ohio Supreme Court Judge R.M. Wanamaker described Abraham Lincoln purportedly talking to himself. Quote, Lincoln, you can never make a good lawyer if you do not understand what demonstrate means. I studied Euclid until I could give any proposition in the first 6 books at sight. I then found out what demonstrate meant, unquote, unquote. Next page. Good stuff. Quote, Abraham Lincoln once told a friend, quote, in the course of my reading, I constantly came across the word demonstrate. I thought at first that I understood its meaning, but soon became satisfied that I did not. I consulted Webster's dictionary. That told me, quote, of certain proof beyond the probability of doubt, unquote, but I could form no idea of what sort of proof that was. I consulted all the books of reference I could find, but with no better results. You might as well have defined blue to a blind man. At last I said to myself, Lincoln, you can never make a lawyer if you do not know what demonstrate means. And so I worked until I could give any proposition of the 6 books of Euclid at sight. I then found out what demonstrate meant, unquote, unquote. Amen. That's what we need to do in all areas. In science, engineering, finance, fitness, art, whatever. Dig into things like this so we know what it is to actually demonstrate and prove and know something. To be certain. Good lesson to learn from Abraham Lincoln here. It would help any writer as well. What does it mean to demonstrate something? Then we'd have a lot better movies and like books of fiction too. People would be improved. Doesn't necessarily make someone a genius, but it makes each person a better version of themselves. Quote, what does it mean to demonstrate? After returning from Congress in 1849, this is what Lincoln set out to learn from the first 6 books of Euclid's Elements. About 2,300 years previously, Euclid had compiled a definitive summary of geometry. By looking back at it, Abraham Lincoln not only won cases for his clients, but ultimately saved his nation. Euclid's Alexandria School was founded in the 2nd to 3rd century BCE during the reign of Ptolemy I. It is reported that when Ptolemy asked whether there was a shorter way to learn geometry than the elements, Euclid responded that there was no royal road to geometry, no shortcuts. A student, after reading Euclid's first theorem, reportedly asked Euclid, but what shall I get by learning these things? Euclid instructed his slave, give him 3 pence, since he must make gain out of what he learns. Unquote. But Lincoln, pragmatic on a higher level, knew why Euclid was important. Most people think the proof is the core of geometry. An aging 1961 10th grade geometry school book states, we have said that theorems are going to be proved by logical reasoning. We have not explained what logical reasoning is, and in fact, we don't know how to explain this in advance. As the course proceeds, you will get a better and better idea of what logical reasoning is by seeing it used, and best of all, by using it yourself. This is the way that all mathematicians have learned to tell what is a proof and what isn't, unquote, unquote. Amen. We cannot get an idea, form a concept prior to experience. We must have examples to form a concept of something, to form a concept of things that go on in our minds. We got to have examples of those. We got to learn these things, identify them, see this in contrast to something else. Here we form a conclusion that works. Here we don't. We're going through some steps, but we fail. Like in arithmetic, we get the problem wrong, or we don't do a proof right. We don't figure out what we need to, versus when we do, then we got logical reasoning versus not. Then you can look at those and see the difference, things like that. Of course, just like you can't explain what calculus is before, and really understand it until you learn calculus, until there is calculus. No one can have an idea, someone can't have an idea of what a red-tailed hawk is until they look at red-tailed hawks. You can't know what some process is until you've seen the process. Reality comes first. But, close that little notification came up. But important idea here. We get ideas by experience, examples, by getting into reality. Lincoln had it right. You can't look something up in a dictionary and get a word string and think you know it or understand it. That's a fail. He was smart enough and wise enough to know that. We should learn from that. A lot of people could look up in a dictionary, oh, demonstrate means of certain proof beyond the probability of doubt. Oh, I know it. No, all one has is a word string. That is not a developed thought. That is someone else's thought. That's like pictures of someone else's vacation. It doesn't mean we've taken the vacation. If we want to take a vacation or go somewhere, we can't just look at a map or pictures. We need to go there. Then and only then have we gone there. So let's take that into consideration in our teaching, learning, thinking, and living. Let's do things like this and dig into what something actually means, and especially get at a higher level, be more pragmatic on a higher level as Lincoln was. He knew that to really be practical, we had to get right what's going on up here. As people say, work smarter, not harder. What the hell does that mean? What the hell does it mean to work smarter, not harder? Give me some examples. Without examples, we don't know what the hell that means. Like here, how are we going to work smarter, not harder? Know what it is to demonstrate something. That's one thing Lincoln did to make himself work smarter, not harder. But, of course, you got to work hard to work smart. But they interact. But it's not just working harder mindlessly. We got to do work to work smarter. Peace.